Of uh, Today we're going to be doing geography, starting from the beginning, term one work. So firstly, you must check out this. You must make sure that you use exam guideline for 2021. But for those who are going to be doing matric in 2025, there will be some changes in this exam guideline, but we can use this one now. So the first topic in geography grade 12 is mid-latitude cyclone, it's climate and weather. So under the climate and weather, we have two cyclones, which are mid-latitude cyclone and tropical cyclone. So, and we have subtropical anticyclones, which are high pressures, and also we have valley climates, urban climates, and also we have interpretation of the synoptic weather map. Yeah, so but today we are going to be doing the mid-latitude cyclone, which they they can be called frontal depression, extratropical cyclones. So this exam guideline will show you uh, what concept you should focus on. So we need to know the general characteristics of general mid-latitude cyclone, the area of formation, the area of formation, general, the area of formation, condition necessary for the formation, stages of development, the cross section, and weather patterns associated with mid-latitude cyclones, which are cold front and warm front conditions and occluded front conditions. The last part is the interpretations, where we deal with the human impact, the impact of mid-latitude cyclone. I'm sorry. Strategies and identification on synoptic weather map and satellite images. Identification, all the stages of development of on synoptic weather map, the impact of South Indian high and South Atlantic high on the movement of the tropical cyclone, no, mid-latitude cyclone, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's all what we are going to be dealing with, but we should firstly start with the general characteristics. Yeah, so here with me I have this this note. Okay, here are general characteristics of low pressures. We must know that mid-latitude cyclones are represented by low pressures. So firstly, we must know the characteristics of low pressure cells. So let's start. Uh, Low pressure, and also you must know there is this confusion learners do. Low pressures Low pressure means that the lowest pressure is at the center. The lowest pressure is at the center. Let's say here we have 5, then here we have 10, then here we must have 15. This is the meaning of the low pressure. This is the first thing you should consider when dealing with low pressure cells. So now we need to know that low pressure is associated with warm rising air. Warm rising air. And low pressure is associated with convergence occur in a low pressure cell. When we say something is converging, we mean in the past few years they brought this question where you must differentiate between divergence and convergence. So when something converges, is in this way. This one is convergence, means that they meet. So, and also we have divergence. Divergence means to move apart from each other. This one occur in high pressure cells, which are called anticyclones. Remember that low pressure cells are called cyclones. So you must be aware of that. And lowest pressure is found at the center. And also air moves clockwise in clockwise direction. Can you please allow me to draw another cyclone for high pressure cell? We have what we call high pressure cells and low pressure cells. In low pressure cells in the southern hemisphere, I'm saying southern hemisphere, this is where we are. In the southern hemisphere, low pressure does what? Low pressure have clockwise direction, rotation of the direction. The rotation is clockwise, but high pressure, the rotation is anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere. I hope we are clear here. So we also this is the statement I was explaining. Air moves in a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere and in an anticyclone. Anticyclone means that the rotation, it means this rotation, but here they're referring to on the north hemisphere. So we also need to know again the weather associated with the low pressure. And to make this thing simple, you must make the differentiation. If this one is stable, the weather on this one are unstable, it means that on the high pressure are stable. So weather associated with the low pressure are unstable condition. We know low pressure, so that's where air rises. So it causes what? Rains and thunderstorms, wind, haze. Yeah, so the weather there it is unstable condition. Then on the high pressure cell, the weather associated with the high pressure cell is stable. High pressure cells associate weather associated with high pressure cells are snow, coldness. Yeah, so that's that's what I'm talking about. Then we have this term called convergence, sorry. It means that movement of air into a low pressure, movement of air into a low pressure. This is what we call convergence. Again, we have low pressure. Low pressure can be identified by letter L in the center of the lowest pressure, and pressure decrease towards the center. Yeah, that's all. So let's move again. And from grade 11, you should know this thing. This air mass circulation. You must be familiar with the trade winds, westerlies, polar easterlies. Yeah. So we are done with the general characteristics. General characteristics of mid-latitude cyclone. So, but yeah, let's move on. This is what I was talking about. So we need to cover these things in climate and weather, which have been detailed on the exam guideline. Yeah, so before we must go through this concept, but some of them will apply them when we are going through other chapters, because here there are other ones which are on the other chapters. So we need to know from grade 11 the what is anticyclone. Anticyclone is actually a high pressure. It's actually high pressure system. Then cyclone is a low pressure cell, also called a depression. So some of other concept that we need to know is convergence. Convergence means that air flow inside, as I've explained, and also divergence, air flow outside, meaning that when air flow outside, this is divergence, and this is convergence. And convergence. So those are the concepts that we need to know before we get into. So I've already explained the differences, the low pressure, the origin of the low pressure and high pressure cells. They said that they originate due to different way that land and water masses heat or cool at different latitudes, meaning that to have low pressure and to have high pressure cell, there must be difference between air masses and water masses in terms of their temperatures. So this then cause high pressure and low pressure belt to break into cells. Okay, let's see. We have low pressure, as I've already indicated. So low pressure is associated with warm rising air. This is very much important. Warm rising air. This is what a low pressure. I want us to check these differences before we get into mid-latitude. Because in mid-latitude cyclone, we are going to deal much with these synoptic charts. And high pressure cells associated with cold subsiding air. They've already indicated here that it's winter. It's winter. Here it's summer. Low pressure, summer. High pressure, winter. Let's move. So again, we have what we call convergence and divergence. Let's start here. When we say something converges, it means that they meet. But here we apply here in mid-latitude cyclone, we say convergence occur in a low pressure cell. In a low pressure cell, meaning that convergence means the air it converging, going downward. Then we have divergence occur in a high pressure, meaning that the air moves outside. Divergence and air converges. So that's what we call convergence and divergence. So they say lowest pressure, let's move on the low pressure side. Lowest pressure found in the low pressure cell found in the center, and here high pressure is found in the center. So another statement that is very much important is this one: air moves clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere and moves clockwise in the southern hemisphere, and air moves anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere. So I want us to cut this confuses a lot of students don't understand this. Let us move to this part. We are on the southern hemisphere, this side. So let's say we have a low pressure and we have high pressure. So this means that and high pressure, sorry. Yeah. What does this mean? It means that around the low pressure cell in the southern hemisphere. Air will do what? Air will rotate clockwise around low pressure, and then air around high pressure cell in the southern hemisphere will move anti-clockwise direction. So this is what we need to focus on. But the difference is the opposite on the northern hemisphere. But we have to focus on the southern hemisphere since we are on the southern hemisphere. So let's move. So we've seen that clockwise direction, air moves clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere around a low pressure. Around a low pressure. Then air moves anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere around a high pressure cell. So let's move. We say associated low pressure cell is associated with unstable weather condition. This is very much important. A lot of students understand this thing. So unstable weather conditions, which may be rain or wind. This is the weather associated with the low pressure cell. So let's move.